While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
And welcome back, everyone. We have been talking about some real life ghost stories with Mr. Jeff Fent at locations that, some of us have not been to, but some unbelievable things that happened to them. And again, these are normally some stories that you would see in a book or a movie. And so I'm always in awe. And, we were talking, you have all the bottles now
Yep.
and no problems. But I believe that was because there was permission given. And
Right.
they also looked at you as a protector.
Right.
And that is really amazing. And, knowing the spirits, the life that they had there and how they were respected in their ways. But they also let you know when you didn't respect them, this is not how we play.
Right.
So let's flip a little bit. So
Okay.
you had this and it burnt and all that. Have you ever had a terrifying experience? Have you had the negative type of spirits come after you, even with you giving the respect that you give?
Um, I mean, I've actually been pretty scared and several times. I haven't been actually run out. Um, but I mean, I had a couple pretty crazy experiences at Madison Seminary when Adam first got the place. Um, we were, I mean, like I would spend a week there by myself working on the place. And, so I'm actually sleeping there. Nobody's there. And I mean, I had nights where I had to leave the hallway lights on and the doors, and I'd lock the doors like that would make any difference. But the doorknobs would be jiggling. I could see something moving uh, underneath the door in the hall. Um, just things like that, and it wouldn't stop, and you just sort of like bury yourself in about 10 blankets and try to try to ignore it. I mean, I've had things like that happen. I've not really had anything really bad chase me out. Um, yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah, that is. Well, and and we seem to, forget that. And that's something that I have talked about before. A lot of the paranormal investigators will go to all these locations, and everybody does their stuff different, whether
Right.
they put protection up or things like that. But we seem to forget, there's always two sides. Even, for us, we have good and we have bad. But in the spirit world, it's the same thing, whether they show themselves the first time
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Um,
So it's just kind of like, what do we do? How
yeah.
do we go about doing this? Do we do it like we would our everyday life, or
Right.
I'm not sure.
The the one thing that's always bothered me about Madison Seminary is, I mean, people have seen me there when I'm not there. Or actually, when I'm in the other building sleeping, they've seen me in the other building walking by them, um, dressed in the same clothing that I'm wearing. Um, a lot of the crew has been seen in there by other members. The place seems to record you. It's almost like I've run a ghost box, and later that night been in a quiet hall with 6 or 7 other people, and we hear my ghost box running, but I'm not running a box. We're just sitting there in silence. Um, I've just always been really leery of seeing myself. You know, I don't know what I would do if I seen myself. Like, I mean, I've had some people in there that thought I was mad at them because I did not talk to them when they seen me, but I wasn't anywhere near where they seen me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That building is unlike anything else I've ever been to. That it's like doppelgangers on a
yeah.
consistent basis. When I'm there with my friends ghost hunting, I tell them, I'm like, pay attention, because you may see your friend walk down the hall, but it may not be your friend. Your friend may be somewhere else. So that's something I pretty much tell people every time I go. Um, I don't know why that place is like that. I don't know how it can even do it. Do you have any understanding on that?
Well, normally it is what we call, and everybody has different names, demons, whatever. But normally it's your tricksters. It's kind of like your negative energy kind of playing around,
Yeah.
seeing what it can do. I've never seen it happen with like your good spirits. But a lot of times if there is something there, I've had it happen where it does mimic somebody. We've even had it mimic somebody's voice over a walkie saying, hurry up, come over here. And you're running to get to that teammate and find out that teammate's not there and
Right.
never called on the walkie, So a lot of times it's those kind of, and I've noticed that was kind of like when you're more in, like the prisons or
Right.
some of your big asylums, you kind of get that stuff. But for like your area, it's actually intriguing that something like that would happen, but they do that to try to separate people, because
Yeah.
anytime you're working with some type of negative energy, it does try to keep you away from a group because that's when energy becomes more vibrant, lighter.
Yeah.
And if it can isolate you, it can then kind of play off your fears and then kind of work from there.
Yeah. It's it the voice thing too happens there too. Like Adam was like on the landing of the second floor, and he heard Addie hollering down to him from up above. And then a few minutes, she's walking up from down below. Or you'll hear Adam hollering your name from the hallway, and Adam's not even on site. Um, but it's increased over the years since Adam's got it. It's almost like it's gaining strength or something. It's able to do it more and more and more. But I've never heard like my ghost box, the one that I was running. I mean, I know that box. We've even got it on video, it running, but we're all sitting there and we're not running a box. So it's gotten pretty crazy there with this doppelganger stuff. Do you know about the story of the lady in the cement there?
No, not at all. That's a place I've never been. I would love
Yeah.
to go check it out. So I don't really know any of the stories.
There there was a town rumor that this lady is buried in the cement. Supposedly two guys were at a bar and they were talking about, that lady that disappeared. Well, she's in the cement. This was like in the early 1900s that they were talking about this. In 1891, they built the bigger of the two buildings, and then they were joined. So they got the Civil War building, Civil War era building,
Uh-huh.
and the 1891 building. Well, a woman that was an employee there disappeared. All her stuff was there. Um, she just flat out disappeared. So supposedly she's in the cement. Also, we got some crazy voice messages from what I would. This guy had to have been a nutcase, but talking about how Adam should not buy the place. The devil himself resides there. There's things buried in the walls and the floors that you don't want to know about. And then he's talking about a woman being choked in the bathroom on the second floor. And he just goes on and on and on. And then he left a second message after Adam actually bought it. And he said, I warned you. And he just goes on his little tangent again. He wouldn't meet me. I know he was following us on Facebook. He would not meet me off site. I just wanted to know what the guy knew. If he's legit, you tell me what you know, but he would never meet me. But so Ghost Hunters came out to do an episode there, and
Uh-huh.
they brought three cadaver dogs in because of that story. And all three dogs hit on the same spot in the basement in this far corner room.
Mhm.
They're like huge stone slabs that are in there. It's not like a full cement floor. It's just these huge stone slabs, and all three sat down in the same spot and alerted. So they brought in ground penetrating radar and actually see there was something down there. So they busted up the floor and they dug down, and whatever was coming up on the ground penetrating radar was no longer there. So now it has a rail around it so you don't fall in the hole. We've left it open, but I don't know what to think about that story. My ghost box has said that she's in the lake because it's real close to Lake Erie. I've asked, is she here? Is she in this floor? And I consistently get she's in the lake. So maybe that's where she is, or maybe she's still underneath that floor somewhere. I don't know, but um, that's the story about the lady in the cement. Um,
That is creepy.
yeah, and
I mean, just to imagine, you just disappear from this world and not even be found, to be at peace. It's almost, a very sad story, no matter
yeah,
whether she's in the lake or in the cement. Just to be able, I couldn't imagine that feeling.
it's pretty crazy. And I was saying the crazy guy was talking about the woman being choked in the upstairs bathroom on the second floor.
Uh-huh.
10 years prior to Adam getting that place, one of my buddies got an EVP of a woman choking in that bathroom, and we didn't. we didn't know what that was about, but you could hear a woman choking in there. So I really wanted to meet up with this guy. He also stated in the second message that he was a former Madison police officer, and which is sort of crazy that he would admit to something like that. But I really wanted to meet that guy. I really wanted to meet him off site. No, no recorder, no phone,
Yeah.
no. I just want to know what you know. Because I brought an inspection camera and I hit every crack and crevice in that building one day looking for anything I could find. And I never found anything, but it's still not to say that there's not something there. So
Yeah.
um, it's there's large pieces of time that are missing from that place. There's 10 years here, 15 years there. You can't find any info on it. You can't find any info when I believe it was the sheriff's department was running out of there. The sheriffs in the city denied that there was even prisoners held there. Well, guess what? We had a flashlight tour, and these two guys were like, "Oh yeah, that room right there in the basement, we used to watch prisoners." So, you know, it's there's just a lot of history to that place, but there's also a lot of history that we can't find anything on.
Yeah.
It's like it was just put away and done away with, and you're not supposed to know. Um, I don't know if bad things happen there and the town just doesn't want anybody to know. I mean, that's why they fought so hard to not let Adam open that place up.
Well,
Um,
and that we have come across, I actually did a show, because here's the thing, we are hearing only what history wants us to see. So even when I go into some locations, they talk about, well, the man of the house, he was a governor or he was one of the richest people in town
right,
and all this, and everybody just praised him. And then, as I'm doing a walkthrough, I'm seeing this negative side of this person because, again, we wear different masks. We're one way on one side and another way because we all have our moments. And because you're saying, well, he had a mistress and then the mistress had a child. The child was killed and it's buried, but it doesn't get a name on the stone.
right,
People are like, oh, no, 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 you can't say that stuff. Well, if you're a paranormal investigator or just a historian itself, you kind of feel gypped because life back then, just like life is now, is hard. There's a lot of secrets that are behind closed doors.
right,
And so when I'm getting spirit coming to talk to me are the ones that have been wronged or who had the voices were shut down and you're starting to talk about it and they're like, "Oh, we can't talk about that." People that's not on paper. Well, it's getting to the point where spirits are like, "We're kind of done with that.
yeah,
Hear our voice. This is what happened."
yep, yep,
And the great thing is I've done it a couple of times and end up digging really far in archives and stuff and found out, like that guy was really a bad person, but it was covered up because he had so much money and pretty much ran like his own little mafia,
right,
so and I noticed that a lot of location owners want to kind of stick to that same type of script. And sometimes I feel that, it's not fair to the spirits that are there, but also not to that owner, because if an owner comes up and says, "Listen, we have good spirits. There was some bad things that could have happened here, so, you might get this and this." What that does is makes people who are coming in, whether they want it just the tour or they're investigating, to be able to have their mind open that there could be a little bit of both and
right,
just be prepared.
yep,
And we don't have owners like that, really out there that'll be willing to say, "Hey, you might get some nasty stuff because we heard this person like to every time, the social lights came in, he liked groping the women, so that might happen to you." They
yeah,
don't say that. And then when you bring something like that up, they're like, "Oh my gosh, please don't say it because it could be bad for business."
right,
And again, to me, it's like, let's bring out the truth. Let spirit tell you what's going on.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's kind of how I feel. I was on my soapbox there for a minute, but
That's all right.
but it we gotta, if we're out there trying to find the truth, I feel like we need to speak the truth.
Right.
And that's kind of where I, kind of fall sometimes of, oh, okay, it's not written, so nobody's going to listen, or they're going to say, oh, that can't happen. But,
Yeah.
and just like your story, I mean, some people could be listening to what happened to you at the Emmett House and stuff and go, that sounds so far fetched. It can't be real.
I didn't
But
even go.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I I probably have 20 other stories about the place that I didn't even mention. It's and I haven't talked about that place much since it burnt down in 2014. So all these memories of all the things that happened there are like sort of like overwhelming me because now I'm like thinking about them all, and um, I spent a lot of time there. I'm still friends with the owner. We actually last year is the first year that we didn't go there on the anniversary of it burning down because normally we would go and sit there on the site. It's just a parking lot now.
Yeah.
Maybe run a box or just hang out. And last year was the first year we didn't do it after
Well,
all
I
these years.
I would definitely love to go to the seminary. I mean, that to me, to, be able to see, is it negative spirit that's doing all the mimicking and stuff like that would be very interesting. Um, but there are a lot of
Me too.
locations like that.
You need to. Also, I'd really like you to sometime go to the Fairfield County Infirmary. Um,
Oh,
the old pauper cemetery that's up on the hill behind it.
uh-huh.
Um, I I can't. I can stay in Madison Seminary. I've stayed in a lot of places by myself. I still can't stay in the Fairfield County Infirmary by myself overnight. It just seems like there's just there's so much unrest. The the cemetery behind it is if you died at the infirmary, or you were a transient and you died, or you couldn't afford to be buried at the family cemetery, you were buried up there. Even the fire marshal was telling us the exact same thing. um, Towards the end, they were burying people standing up, and the the corporation that was going to buy it a year prior to Adam, they did ground penetrating radar to see what they could and could not do with the property. And you start seeing the bodies up there. There's no marker stones, there's just very few up there. But you start seeing the bodies, or what appear to be bodies, in some kind of normal order, like you would think. And then, the last third of it, it's like these dots, and it's just almost like they're all just standing next to each other, buried in the far end of that cemetery. And it's so bizarre to even think that they could even do that. But the town knows that they did that. What do you think? That when you be at when you have you ever heard of anybody burying bodies standing up?
Um, some cultures do things like that. But it makes me wonder if they did that because they were running out of room to bury them, and standing them up,
That
they could pile
that
more in. And I've
that's
heard of that
that's
being done.
that's what they told us. And
Yeah.
they actually picked up bodies that are buried around the building too, which aren't supposed to be. But yeah, the
Yeah, back
guy that
then, they just do it. Yep.
yep, that corporation said no way, we can't touch this property. There's too many bodies. So it's pretty crazy. And then I'll tell you another weird story, because they have an embalmment. They have a morgue there, and they have a big, like, body freezer, and then a smaller one, and there's an embalming room there, and then they've got these two huge cement, like,
trough like tubs where they would drain fluids. And there's an underground stream that you can hear at times that goes underneath the building. And they were draining body fluid right into the drain into that underground stream. And the town couldn't figure out why people were getting sick.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and downstream, and found out that what they were doing, and they shut all that down. I don't know what all happened at that time with the infirmary for doing that, but that got shut down. But the morgue, the cement trays, you can see where it would have run right down in the drain, right into the stream, because you can hear the stream at times. Um, um, it that place is pretty crazy.
Well, I think that I am going to have to do a little paranormal road trip and
Yes.
just kind of look at some of those locations. Um, what I would like to do, because we're getting towards the end, is
Okay.
one, thank you for being on with me, but I would love to invite you to come back so we can talk about some other areas. I
Okay.
also want to give you a special thank you for always being out there looking out for everybody in the paranormal field and not being afraid to say anything. So, thank you for that,
You're
especially for
welcome. You're welcome.
myself. I just love talking to you and hearing these stories, and because there's history and there's this, bit of that ghost story too. So definitely please join me again because we can do a part two.
I
And
will.
all right. For for everybody that's out there, definitely join us when we do a part two with Mr. Jeff Fent. I really enjoyed having you on tonight. I want to thank everyone who's joined us tonight also. And just want to let you guys know that October 11th through the 13th in Springfield, Missouri, we are going to have the XCon 2024, and it's Into the Rabbit Hole. And of course, ticket information, you just go into unxnetwork.com and then /XCon for ticket information. I would love to see all you guys there. We are going to do the paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, it's there. Amazing people, amazing speakers. And again, thank you, Jeff, for joining us. And until
You're
next
most welcome.
time, I'll see you in the dark.